Thank you, everyone, for joining me for another episode on the Travel Collective and Your Photo Travel Guide. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Michael, who's joining me from the Netherlands. And I have a love for food when I travel, and I know Michael has a love. He's called the Kasenova, the Kasenova of cheese. So he's definitely a cheese lover. So, welcome, Michael.
Thank you, April. Thanks for having me. Welcome to the Netherlands.
Yes, thank you. So I know my sister as a kid like loved cheese. She was just like you'd hand her a block of cheese, and in America, cheese to me is not. I don't know. I never had that love of cheese. But for you, when did your love of cheese kind of grab
Well,
onto you?
I've always had a dream to work with food. And when I moved to Switzerland 15 years ago, I couldn't find, but the simple answer is I couldn't find a proper job. I was working in exhibition display graphics in London, and I couldn't find any work in that in Switzerland. So I thought, I'm going to follow my dream. What are the Swiss like? They like cheese and chocolate. That's the two things we think of as Switzerland. And I wasn't really into sweet things. So cheese it was. I opened a cheese shop. And as soon as I started learning about cheese and talking about it, just something clicked. There was just something I found my destiny, if you like. It's just something that I live and breathe. And I'm the cheese lover, as you said, Käsenova. The German word for cheese is Käse, so Käsenova, Kasenova. It just all came together. I just formed this
Yeah.
brand name, if you like, for myself of the cheese lover, and it just went from there really. And three and a half years ago, I left the Netherlands. I moved back to London. I did 2 years in London. I was some of your foodie regulars may have heard of Borough Market. Borough Market is the big foodie place in central London. I worked there for a few months. I didn't really enjoy it that much. But then I was also managing the oldest cheese shop in the UK, Paxton and Whitfield, just off Piccadilly, 1770 something. They started,
Oh
and
my gosh.
their most famous customer was the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles. And I spoke a few times with Prince Charles's private chef about cheeses, and that was something really, really special for me. And then 16, 17 months ago, I moved to the Netherlands to be with my long-term Dutch partner here, Martine. And the first question she said when I moved over is, "So when are you going to open a cheese shop?" And I said, "No, I've done that. After selling cheese, what I love the most is talking about it. And I have obviously a lot of knowledge for cheese, but more importantly, I have a love and a passion for it, and I love sharing that passion. So I was going to concentrate on doing my corporate workshops, entertaining, education things. And one morning I woke up and I thought, I don't know of any cheese professional in the world who actually teaches people how to buy cheese. So
Right.
what I do is now I take people, not just tourists, but also locals, regulars in Amsterdam mainly. We go shopping for cheese. We go around the best cheese market in Amsterdam, which is on Saturdays. During the week, we go around the best cheese shops, some of the greatest cheese shops in the world, as you can imagine, here in Amsterdam. And we buy a selection of cheeses that we're going to enjoy. You imagine that we're going to be buying some cheeses for a dinner party. So I involve the guests, say we're going to go buy the cheeses for the perfect cheese board. And over the years, being on this side of the cheese counter, customers have come to me and said, "Look, we're having a big party or a nice dinner. We want to really impress our guests with cheeses. We want 8, 10, sometimes even 20 different cheeses. And that's far too many. You need 4 types of cheese for the perfect cheese board. That's something old, something new, something stinky, something blue. And if you incorporate some sheep or goat in that, you have every type of cheese in the world covered with those 4 styles. You can go up to 5 or 6 if you. One of my weaknesses, one of my, as my Martine often tells me, one of my weaknesses when I go shopping for cheese, I can't stop. So I often buy 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different cheeses, and I tell myself off afterwards. It's far too many, but and that's basically what we do.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And I think a lot of us, at least me in my travels, American cheese is just does not, you really have to hunt. You have to really go to places like Vermont where they're getting
True.
quality ingredients. But in Europe, I imagine even the act of sourcing and finding
Mhm.
out where they're getting their ingredients is interesting too.
Yeah, I treat what I look for when I'm looking for a new cheese. First of all, I'm looking for a cheese with a natural rind, so no wax on it, no vacuum packing. There's this one here. This is a pure natural
Yeah.
rind. It's in my opinion the greatest Dutch hard cheese, and 99% of Dutch people have never heard of it. I discovered this. They don't export it. It's made from raw organic Jersey milk, just literally 10 miles that way, looking out the window. So it's
Oh,
very low.
wow.
One of the greatest hard cheeses in the world. Tiny farm. They don't export it. And what I'm looking for also is cheese that's made on the farm where the animals live. And in wine, you've heard of wines where they on the label this is a single estate wine.
Yes.
This is a single estate cheese. Everything about this cheese comes from that small farm. It's the soil, the grass, the animals, the animal husbandry, the milking process. The cheese is made by the same team, and everything about that cheese is from one a microcosm of everything on that farm. So that's what I'm looking for. And even in the UK, there are a lot of mass-produced cheeses where they make cheese with milk from 10 or 20 different farms, and it's made on an industrial process. And you've lost that connection with the soil and with the animals then. So that's what I look for. I was in New York 6 or 7 years ago, and I went around all the cheese shops in Manhattan and looking for American artisan cheese. And I have to say, there are some stunning cheeses in the US. Not very many and not very widely available, especially outside of the areas where they're made or the main cities. The prices were very, very high, whereas those type of cheeses over here, for a lot of people, they're normal. They're just normal cheeses, and so you wouldn't pay a lot of money for them. I'm often asked what is the best cheese country in the world, and although my cheese shop in Zurich, I only sold British artisan cheeses. That was something new. I love a niche market.
Yeah.
So I love British cheeses, but if I have to say that the best cheese country in the world is France. It's not just because of the cheesemakers, it's because of the consumers. The consumers will not accept any rubbish, and they will not accept gimmicks. They also want cheeses with the funkiest, craziest flavors and smells. So they really, really drive the cheesemakers to do something special. Whereas in the UK, a lot of people are just happy with supermarket cheddar, and the same in the States as well. People are happy with just something industrial processed. And that's fine. I grew up on supermarket cheese as a boy growing up in the 60s in England, 60s and 70s in England. So that's quite all right. But I'm looking for something really special. And the most common question I get on my walking tours and my workshops is, what is my favorite cheese?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one, right?
Oh, no, I thought about it a while, and actually there's only one answer. My answer, it's been the same since day one of selling cheese 18 years ago. The best cheese in the world has always been the same. It's the cheese I haven't tried yet.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
No, I can't abide this thought of, oh, this is the best cheese in the world. It's the best Stilton. I can talk about that later if necessary. It's the best Stilton cheese, but no, the best cheese in the world. There are so many out there. And if you just say, I'm only going to eat this cheese, or it's the same with beer or wine. This is my favorite beer. When I go into a bar and my favorite beer is on tap, that's all I drink. I think, how sad is that? There's nothing excites me more than going to a cheese shop and seeing 10, 20, 30 cheeses I've never heard of before.
Right.
Or going into a bar and there's some beers that I've never heard of from funky breweries somewhere. I thought, no, I have to try it. It doesn't matter if I don't like it that much. It's the discovery of something.
Oh, I so agree. That's completely how I feel. I mean, and if I go to a place that's known for something like Switzerland or Vermont, here in the States, Vermont has quite a little bit of, small farms making cheeses. I want to taste a sample of everything. I don't want to just stick with what I know, because everyone's always coming up with something new and different. And
yes, yeah. Open your eyes and discover and learn.
yes, exactly. So you mentioned the farmers markets. Does Amsterdam have quite a good selection of farmers markets where these niche cheesemakers come to, or?
There's one which is by far the best. The most famous market in Amsterdam is Albert Cuyp, spelled Cuyp. All the tourists go there. All the tourist guidebooks say this is the best market. It's a bit of a tourist trap place. There's guys making the stroopwafels, those are the caramel biscuits. They're making for you. They're great. There's 2 or 3 guys selling cheese. The cheese is good quality, but it's not really, really special. They're mostly Gouda. You Americans call it Gouda.
Yes.
In England, Gouda. The Dutch, the real pronunciation is Gouda. The G is a very soft one, so it's Gouda. Gouda, Gouda, Gouda. It's all, that's the most common style of cheese. I actually do one workshop that I offer for clubs and for companies, and I call it a world beyond Gouda.
Oh,
And all
interesting.
Dutch cheeses, but not one of them is a Gouda. This is a Gouda style of cheese. It's basically named after the town of Gouda, where the market there made that style of cheese famous. It's made all over the Netherlands. It's a certain style of cheese, but this one is a totally different style, and
Yeah.
it's much better
Well,
than
that looks like a more hard cheese, which sometimes
uh,
those have a.
yeah, they're both hard cheeses. This one is a bit older than this one, but you can get some much older ones of this one, but I'm not such a fan of. Um, People often ask me for, I want the really old cheese. Give me the old, the hard, the cheese that bites back, and there's a
Right.
bit of sort of a macho thing in that. Like I can take it. I want the one that's going to really, really make me suffer with the spiciness of it. The problem with that is once you over age a cheese, you get this stronger flavor, but I describe it as a one-dimensional punch in the mouth flavor. And with cheeses like this is the oldest they mature at. It's 13 months old. If you age this another 6 months, yeah, you will get a stronger bite from it, but you lose all the subtlety and complexity
Yeah.
that's in the cheese. It's a pity we haven't got a smell microphone
Yeah,
here because
exactly. I know.
delightful. It's sweet and nutty and caramel. It's got these little calcium lactate salty
Oh,
crystals in there. It's got everything going for it. And then when you age it too far, you lose a lot of that. You just get this strong bite and you lose all the complexity and the subtlety that's in a special cheese.
how do you feel about storing cheese? Are there different ways for consumers once they purchase a cheese to store it? Is that dependent on the type of cheese they're buying?
First of all, this is all part of the lessons that you get on my walking tours when we go around shopping for cheese. First of all, only buy cheese that you're going to eat within a week.
Hmm.
Let the cheese shops look after the cheese and they will cut a fresh piece for you. So, for example, soft cheeses, I haven't actually got any soft cheeses here today, but the soft cheese, they are anything between 2 weeks to 8 weeks old on general. And there is 1 week towards the peak when the cheese is absolutely perfect. A few days before, it's too young. A few days after, it's getting a bit too old, and the flavor goes a bit too beyond what they want. Cheese, but at the end of the day, cheese doesn't go off because
Right.
cheese is only milk that's gone off in the first place. It can only go off it to a further degree
Right.
to a point where it doesn't taste so nice or it doesn't smell so nice. So soft cheeses have sometimes only have a 3 or 4 day window when they're absolutely at their peak. So when you go to a
Oh,
specialist cheese shop, tell them if you're buying some soft cheese, tell them when you want to eat it, and tell them if you and your guests prefer your cheese milder or stronger, and let the cheese shop decide which is the right age for you. Um, and secondly, with hard cheeses, when you cut a hard cheese like this, basically once it's been cut, within a few days or a week after it, the cut surface is trying to grow a new rind, and it
mm,
does that by growing a little bit of a sheen on there, then a little bit of mold on there, and it doesn't. It's not bad, but it starts drying out. And here's
right.
a little tip for you, by the way. Whenever you take any hard cheese out of the fridge, even a supermarket simple cheddar cheese, if it's been in there for a few days or a week, often if you look along the surface, you'll see a shine, and it's
Yeah.
basically the cheese is trying to grow a new rind. You need a knife like this. You see, it's got a
Yeah.
curved blade. It's called cleaning the cheese. You just want to scrape off that rind, that sheen. Just scrape it off like
Oh,
that. That
yeah.
tastes a bit more sour and bitter than the rest of the cheese. It affects the flavor of the cheese. That's another little trick that you get on my cleaning the cheese. No one thinks about cleaning cheese, but
No, no one thinks about that.
and also the fridge is the worst place to keep hard cheeses. Soft cheeses and blue cheeses need to be kept cool, but hard cheeses, the fridge is very dry and it sucks any moisture out. So obviously, if you're in Las Vegas and it's 120 Fahrenheit, you haven't got a cool area. Yeah, wrap it up in some paper and put it in the salad drawer of your fridge. The salad
Oh,
drawer is a little bit warmer, but there's also more moisture in there. And with the tomatoes and lettuce and vegetables
right.
in there. So you'd want to avoid the cheese from drying out too much. But the most important thing is don't buy cheese that you're not gonna eat that in the next week or 10 days. Let the cheese shops look after the cheese, and then people go shopping here in the markets 2 or 3 times a week, and they buy what they're going to be eating over the next 2 to 3 days.
No, I love that. We've started doing that here, especially for fruit, fresh vegetables. I mean, you can't buy weeks ahead and expect it to even, especially when it's this hot. So
Yeah.
that is an excellent tip, though, to think about that when you're purchasing your cheeses too. Is buy what you're going to eat. Don't buy too much. And
Yeah. But if the other big tip I have, um, don't throw cheese away. If you've got leftover cheese and you're going on holiday or something, um, chop the cheese up into small bits, put it in the freezer bag and freeze it. The same with cheese rinds. I mean, this rind here, you can probably see it looks sort of
yeah,
dry, cardboardy. 99% of people would just automatically cut that off. Don't. Cheese rinds is just a concentration of everything that's inside the paste of the cheese. So when I serve cheese like this, this is the way I will serve this type of cheese here with the rind, with the inner bit as well. And
right,
I'll describe it on this one. I draw a little picture with a knife of the cheese here.
right.
You
Yeah,
see that. You imagine this cheese is about 5 kilos. It's matured for this one only 6 months, but sometimes 8 or 9 months. Basically, as the cheese is maturing, it gets harder and it gets drier. Of course, it's going to get more dry around the edges. You'll lose more moisture there, but in the center area, you're going to get more moisture in there. The center area has more moisture, therefore, it's going to be a creamier texture and a creamier, milder flavor. If you just chop the cheese up into cubes, some people will get some of the older, harder one on the outside. Some will get some of the softer, milder one on the inside. If you cut the cheese into thin strips like this, every piece of cheese has a little bit of the milder, creamy one in there. It gets harder and stronger as it gets to the outside. And then you can eat the rind as well. But if you eat it all together, I call it a cheese cocktail. You've got 3 different cheeses in this one little morsel there. Just
yeah.
all together, it's a cheese cocktail of everything from that little farm just 10 miles down the road from us here.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'd never heard, to be honest, I had never heard of freezing cheese if you're going to be gone.
Yeah, when you freeze a cheese on a hard cheese like this, it will destroy the texture. So when you defrost it, it will crumble apart. So it's good for cooking. It's fine for cooking afterwards, but you lose the texture and you lose a little bit of quality in the flavor. Another tip you've got, if you have a cheese rind that you don't particularly like the flavor of, this is the best Stilton cheese from England. It has this thick,
Yeah.
caramelly, nutty, crunchy rind.
Look at that. That's
It's not that
incredible.
tasty on its own. It's a little bit farmy. It's a little bit challenging. But here's a great tip for you. We're having a barbecue, not this weekend, the weekend after, with some friends around. Cheese rinds like this, I keep and I chop them up very finely, mix them in with your minced beef, and you make the ultimate cheeseburger.
Oh
Because
my
at the end
gosh.
of the day, cheese rinds, I describe them as being a cheese stock cube. It's a concentration of cheese into something hard and dry and packed with flavor. And you can use that the rinds of Parmesan, Parmigiano cheese, the Italians, you can't eat the rind, it's too thick and
Yes.
too hard. But you put cheese rinds in your minestrone soup for a few minutes just to give a little bit of a cheese perfume to the soup. You can use cheese rinds you can have all sorts of leftover bits of cheese, funky, expensive cheeses that you've had for a special party, but you're going to make a mac and cheese at home. And you just get some simple cheddar cheese from the supermarket for your cheese sauce. Have some leftover bits and pieces of cheese,
Yeah.
the cheese sauce with some special cheeses. So you've got leftover cheeses you're going to use for that. These are all the things I talk about on and sometimes I talk too much. I can go on and on and
No,
on
no,
for
no.
hours.
I love it. I love your
It's like
passion for it
put a
because,
penny in the slot and I will talk about cheese
yeah,
for
no,
hours.
it's so amazing. That's just incredible. Just the all the tips because oftentimes we look at the rind, we look at that extra part, and off it goes into the trash. We're throwing
Yeah.
away something
You're throwing
really
away.
amazing.
Sometimes it's the best part of the cheese. Soft cheeses, for example, brie. I know some people who cut the rind off brie and throw it away. If you're going to throw anything of brie away, throw the middle bit away because that's just the paste that's holding the rind together, and it's the rind where the flavor is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what else. This has just been amazing. How many people generally take your walking tours?
Well, I do. I'm licensed. Licensed by the City of Amsterdam. I have a permit. We have a limit of maximum 15 people, but that's far too many for me as well.
Yeah.
So on Saturday public walks around the market, I'll do 10. I've done 12 a couple of times. That's the maximum. During the week, when we go to cheese shops, I do private groups, but also mixed public groups. My maximum then is 6. Occasionally, I'll do 7 or 8 if people are desperate. And yeah, that's it. After we've bought the cheese, of course, we want to taste them.
I was just gonna say you got to include the tasting somewhere.
Everyone says fine cheeses, you need to enjoy them with wine. It's the correct thing to do. Wine and cheese, wine, flavors of wine, they're influenced by the soil, by the
Yes.
local weather, by farming traditions. It's the same with cheese. They come from the same things. But I love pairing cheese with beer, not
I
just,
was just gonna say I'm more of a beer aficionado. I
yeah.
have a Canadian friend who kind of got me hooked on just the complexities and pleasures of beers, you
Well,
know?
that's it. With beer, there are infinitely more flavor possibilities with beer than there ever can be with wine. You've got dry, bitter beers, you've got sweet, malty ones, sour beers, fruity beers, and you've got so many more flavors to play with. I actually, in Zurich, I also started a craft beer, but the first craft beer bar in Zurich, the International Beer Bar, is still going, and I'm still a silent partner in it. So I started wanting to pair cheese with beer, and I work with a brewery in Amsterdam, independent. We get 4 different small beers, a flight of beers, and we pair different cheeses with the different beers. But the most popular walk I have is with wine because people also love wine. But again, I mentioned before, I love a niche market. I work with a small shop in the center of Amsterdam. You would never find it. It's hidden in the basement underneath the bakery, and they only stock Dutch wine.
Oh,
There are
really?
200 vineyards in the Netherlands, and people are so surprised about the quality and the variety of the wines that we have there. So we have a really great arrangement with this wine shop called Design and Wine, just off Dam Square. But again, you would never find it. It's a real speakeasy place
Yeah,
of
I
a.
kind of like that vibe of something hidden and special, that and Dutch wines. I don't think we hear a lot about Dutch wines.
They don't export. It's something like 0.1% of wine consumption in the Netherlands is Dutch wine, and none of it gets exported. So the rest of it is French, Italian, Spanish, US, South America, whatever. And I've had even some Dutch people say, "Oh, it's ridiculous. Dutch wine is awful." It isn't. They just haven't tried the good ones.
Right,
And
or having it in the right, there's so much to know about wine as well, what you eat it
yes,
with, the whole experience.
yes, yeah. And I think if particularly tourists when they come into the Netherlands and they want a really good experience of food with Dutch cheese, but I also work with Swiss and French and British cheeses. I'm not one of those people that goes to the market and say, right, we're only going to have British cheese or French cheese, or I go to the market to look for what the best cheeses are that day. And look at the quality, you look at the toss, you don't know what's going to be there. Always ask the cheesemonger what is good that day. And I often describe that cheesemongers, I know I did it for 18 years, we love a curious customer. Don't be
Yeah,
shy.
right.
Ask, ask what, yeah, 99%, 95% of people buy what they know. They buy the cheddar or the Gouda, or in Switzerland, Emmentaler. And they look at all these other unusual cheeses with the strange rinds, and they're sometimes a bit shy. They're shy to admit that they don't actually know
Right.
about cheese. But don't be. Yeah, we're the experts, and we love to share. All cheesemongers are the same. We love a curious customer, someone who wants to try something different.
Oh, I agree. Even if when you go to your local market, and even in the United States where certain markets do have like their own cheese counter and they've assigned someone to work there, don't be shy. If you see something you're not familiar with, I can't tell you how many times they'll just say, "Oh, here I have a little piece, at least try it," because they want you to buy it. Bottom line is they want to make a
Yeah,
sale. It
yeah.
helps them. So ask questions. Don't
They
be
want a happy customer because they want you to come back.
right,
You know?
exactly. Exactly.
And
Which
also they're not gonna sell you they're not gonna recommend the cheese that's too old, or whatever. They want to impress you, and they want you to love their cheese and to come back and to love them as people as well. Selling cheese. It's about the personality. It's entertainment. You
oh
know,
yes.
and I was interviewed on Twin Cities Live TV from Minnesota. They
Oh
interviewed me in Borough
yes.
Market 2 years ago. Elizabeth Reese, she's the journalist, and we're still in touch on Instagram. And she asked me, she says, what is so special about selling cheese? I said, fundamentally, you're just making people happy. They
Right.
walk away with a smile on their face, and I have a smile on my face and a smile in my heart because I know I've introduced people to cheeses they would never try before, and I've made them happy. And you go home at the end of the day and you think, I've achieved something today. I've changed some people's lives with the types
Yes.
of cheese we're eating now, and it's it's not the most well-paid job in the world, but it's the most satisfying.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, I think we all need more happiness. I was talking to someone the other day who's, having some health challenges, and she said, "Don't talk to me about changing my diet. I enjoy eating, so I'm going to continue to eat." And I said, by all means, if that's your enjoyment, continue to do what you're passionate about. At the end of the day, being happy feeds our soul, makes us happy and healthy too. It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's happy food, and having and everything in moderation. Of course, you don't want to eat lots of cheese every day because there is a lot of it is fatty. There's carbohydrates and sorry, not carbohydrates, but yeah, it's more fatty. But I've noticed on the cheese workshops I do, where people say they eat a lot of cheese, and these cheeses that they're trying, they're not particularly strong, but they're rich, full flavored,
Right.
and they said, I can't believe I've eaten half as much cheese as I would normally would, but I feel full because they feel satisfied. So I've actually described special cheese like this now. It's a diet food. You
Yes,
can
it is.
eat like this and lose weight. You're
Exactly.
laughing, right? If people
Yeah,
are
no,
laughing,
but it
you're
is
burning calories when you're laughing as well. It's
right,
happy food.
right.
It's the stories that go with it, but it's true. You eat less of it. So it's everything in moderation. Don't not too much alcohol, not too much fat, not too much meat, and not too much special cheese either.
Yeah, but it's like any thing that's well crafted, well made. If your mouth is happy in several places, like it's a little sweet, it's a little salty, you're not gonna get, you are gonna feel satiated, full. It's that kind of experience you're gonna have. So would
Mhm.
you say cheese, things like wine is harvested at a certain time? Is there seasonality to a product like cheese?
Absolutely. Yeah, wine is the vintage of a wine changes every year. This is a story I tell again on my workshops. Cheese changes through the seasons, through the months, through the weeks, even from day to day, there can be changes because the harvest of milk happens every single day. And for example, there's a famous cheddar cheese maker in Somerset in England, 10 miles from Cheddar Village, by the way. That's where the name from cheddar came from 900 years ago. His name's Jamie Montgomery, and he has various fields, pastures where his ladies, his cows are. And on, I think it's Wednesdays, he moves his ladies to his lower pasture. And on the lower pasture, of course, there's going to be more moisture in the soil.
Oh,
So
right.
the grass is a little bit more rich, but also there's different wildflowers and different herbs there. So the cheese he makes on a Thursday, where the cows have had the diet from the Wednesday, when you open the cheese 18 months or 2 years later, you will notice a slight difference between the cheese made from milk from that field than from one of the higher pastures.
Wow. That's just
And
amazing.
I was at a cheese farm a few years ago, and I was in the cheese making room, all my whites on, my hairnet and everything. And I was talking to the cheese maker, and he was telling me about the temperature. He had his milk and curds in his vat at the time, and he was talking to me. And then he swore, and he says, "Oh, just a minute!" And he switched his machine off. He opened the drain to drain his whey out of the curds, and he was in a tiz. He was panicking. He went over to his desk. He wrote some notes. I says, "What happened?" He says, "Sorry, I was talking to you a minute long, and I was cutting the curds a minute longer than I normally do." And
Oh,
so I said, "So what did you write down?" He says, "I wrote down what I did differently today, because when that cheese is ready to eat in 6 months' time, if we notice there's a slight difference to what we had on the cheese from yesterday, we look what happened. Oh, I was talking to that crazy guy about what I did. I cut the curds for a minute longer. It might make a difference one way or the other. It might make it better, or it might make it slightly worse. And cheese making is 70%. Well, actually, cheese making is 50% cleaning, and then 40% science and 10% art uh,
wow.
and creativity. And then I noticed and he said things like, if we have a fox attack in the night, for example, and some chickens get killed, the cows may get stressed. They may really stress
Right.
what the milk. That might make a slight difference. We make a note of that. Then I noticed on his list for the last couple of weeks, he had 3 or 4 days, he had a little red tick. next to them. And I said, what's the red tick for? He said, well, he went a bit shy and a bit pink. And he says, those are the mornings that my wife was nice to me. And I just made a note of it in case my good mood actually it affects the flavor of the cheese. So I
Yeah.
suppose you're hoping that that is going to make a big difference. So you can ask her to be nice to you more often.
Right.
But
Well,
things
it
like that, cheese
totally.
literally day to day, because every harvest of milk is from a different day.
And that's true when you think about it. Some days are sunny or rainy, or the cow too. How is the cow feeling, and what
Exactly.
is
Yes.
it eating? Early
Yeah.
springtime,
It
there's not as
changes.
many
It
wildflowers, like you said, and
changes so much. Yeah. And supermarkets, they want cheeses which are the same all year round. They think that consumers want to go and buy the same cheddar or whatever it might be. And if they notice there's something, oh, this cheddar tastes different to what it did when I had it last week, they think there's something wrong with it. And there isn't.
right,
Cheese changes. We want to celebrate as artisan cheese professionals. We want to celebrate the change in the seasons and the change in the days. So the supermarkets, they change the recipe of the cheese, or not them, but the industrial producers do. So they adjust the temperature and the acidity levels and the moisture in the maturing room. They even add enzymes into the milk to change the way that the chemical compound of the milk affects the aging process.
right.
Um, and I don't want that. I want every single cheese to taste different. So I can imagine that 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, something happened on that farm that affected the flavor of the cheese, just the mood of the cheesemaker. His wife was
Right.
good, nice to me that morning, and he had a smile on his face, and all of that changes us.
Well, just and if you can picture where the cows were too, because for me,
Mm-hmm.
Vegas is like hot and dry, but when I go to Vermont, because I travel there in autumn, I like to see like, oh, this looks like such a happy, pleasant. That affects my purchasing of the cheese as well.
Exactly. You want
I can, yeah,
happy animals. Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So do you have plans to develop a countryside tour outside of Amsterdam for?
I might do. At the moment, I'm just so busy with the walk. I only started 9 months ago, and I've already got
Oh,
this month I got 15 tours
oh
this month,
wow.
private and public. And now I'm getting some of the five-star hotels in Amsterdam. The concierge team are coming on my walks because they want to start recommending me to their clients, but they
Yes.
need to that I'm at the level that they're happy to recommend. In 5 weeks' time, we're going to Ireland for a week's holiday.
Oh,
There's a
nice.
village where my grandfather was born, but we're also going to some cheese farms, and I'll be making some videos and photography and writing some stories about that. I'm also planning in September. I'll send you an invite, by the way.
Yes.
It's an online international cheese workshop where at this table here I talk about various cheeses that I've bought, and you buy your ticket for 20 euros or something. You can have as many people around your kitchen table as you want for that. I send you a shopping list of the types of cheeses that we're working with. But if you're based in the US, I will send you a link to Murray's Cheese Shop in Grand Central Station in New York. They will ship the cheeses that I have chosen to you. And I talk about the cheeses like I'm doing now. I talk about how to enjoy them, what to pair them with, how they are made. And we're planning one next summer in Amsterdam on a canal boat cruise.
Oh,
So we'll
wow.
be on an Amsterdam canal boat with some guests on the boat, but there'll be cameras that going around the world where people can share my love of the cheese. And we have a little camera I can point to the Anne Frank's house and the various bridges and that. So I've got a lot of ideas, but just take
Oh,
it
I
slowly.
know, but that's great though that you've already got, just in 9 months, just a passionate group of
Yeah.
people eager. So what else is on the cheese plate? Now I got to see that you
All
picked.
right, what have we got here? Well, this one. This is a Dutch blue cheese. It's a Gouda style because it's got this round. That's the style of cheese. It's got the round edges, which I can talk about. I'm not going to go into that now because it'll go too far. But this is actually made from goat's milk.
Oh, wow.
It's a goat's milk blue cheese, and it's sweet. I've had customers. I always ask at the beginning for people's cheese level appreciation. And we go for mild or strong. And I like to take people out of their comfort zone. And there's always, on average, something like 20% of people who say they don't like blue cheese. So I
Yeah.
rephrased the question. I said, okay, how many people here think they don't like blue cheese? And they're all a bit like reticent, but well, no, I
Yeah.
don't like blue cheese, but he's going to make me eat some. And I have cheeses like this Blue cheese, they say, is smelly, it's spicy, it's old, it's strong. None of those things. All blue cheese are young, mild, and creamy, but the cheesemaker has encouraged the blue to grow to give it a distinctive flavor. So once I explain to them where the blue comes from, and we have a cheese like this, which is sweet, very gentle and sweet. Afterwards, they say, do you know, now I understand it. I actually appreciate blue cheese. Thank you.
Right.
So that's a blue goat. This is the Stilton, which I got from the UK. This is a Gouda style of cheese. It's the Boa Martin from north of the Netherlands. This is quite a young one. I normally work with an older one. And then this one is called Remeker, made just up the road here. Remeker, Remeker. And it comes from the Old Dutch, Reme meaning surrounding, and Ecker meaning oak trees. And if you go to the farm now, two sides of the farm still have 200-year-old oak trees.
Oh, wow.
And you can't buy it anywhere. Even there's only 3 shops in Amsterdam sell it, 1 shop in our little town here, and they don't export anything anywhere in the world. So my guests who come on the walking tours, they always buy a 500-gram wedge of this vacuum packed. It will be fine for a month or 2, and they take it home. And I say, you are the only people in the world who have this outside the Netherlands.
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous. And the big one was, did you hold that one
The
up?
big one is the Stilton. This is, oops, I lost my balance.
Yeah, don't dump your tray.
It's Colston Bassett Stilton. There's 5 dairies allowed to make Stilton cheese, and this is Colston Bassett, which is the best of the 5 in my opinion. Croppel Bishop also I love, and it's made in Nottinghamshire, Robin Hood country.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
England, and there's actually this is a pasteurized, all Stilton cheese has to be pasteurized. There is a raw milk version of Stilton. They're not allowed to call it Stilton because the trademark protection of their cheese, it has to be made with pasteurized milk. So it was about, I don't know, 20 years ago, this chap went to the Stilton Association, says, I want to make a Stilton and join your club. And they said, yes, tell me about it. He said, I'm going to make it with raw milk. And he says, no, you can't. It has to be made with pasteurized milk. He says, no, I'm going to make a raw milk Stilton. And he went on and on. In the end, they says, well, okay, go ahead, but you can't call it Stilton. So he called it something else. He called it the medieval name of Stilton Village, Stitchelton.
Oh.
And I incorporated it. There is 1 shop in Amsterdam, or 2 shops in Amsterdam I can get it from. And this guy, Joe Schneider, who makes this, he's from New York.
Oh,
And
interesting.
New York middle finger to the
Yes.
Stilton Making Association. To all intents and purposes, it's a Stilton cheese. It's a Stilton recipe, but the legal name can't be called Stilton. And it's as Stilton was 150 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that is fabulous. Just the history of the places where they've been making cheese, the passion of the cheese makers. Exactly. Do they actually have any festivals in Europe for cheese lovers that you've attended?
Yeah, there is a famous one in Italy, in Bra, in Italy, and it's every 2 years, and it's
Wow.
it's the best one. There was even, I think it was every 2 years, the American Association of Artisan Cheesemakers. I can't remember what the full name is, but it's something like that. They went there for the first time about 7 or 8 years ago, and there was a little bit of a mirth in the local media, like, oh, they bring an American cheese over to the art place. All the very, very top level American artisan cheeses. And the festival is on for 3 or 4 days. And I think it was at the end of the second day, they'd sold all of the cheese they brought. Everyone was blown away by it. So that I say to people that anyone in the world can make a fantastic cheese if they have good soil, healthy animals, and a cheesemaker with a passion for doing something special. You will make good cheese. It doesn't matter what country it's in.
Oh, exactly.
So that's the main one. There's lots of other ones around the country around Europe as well. But Bra is the big industry standard. Yes.
Yes. So tell us, Michael, where people can sign up for your tours if they're coming to Amsterdam, because it sounds like you want to book ahead to be sure that you can get on your tour.
You need to. Sometimes I can take bookings that week, but my website is Kaesenova. That's Kaeseno. Oh, by the way, I've got this little thing which I'm going to show you.
Yes.
Everyone guest gets a cheesy postcard.
Oh, I love it.
and then that is my Kaesenova.com. which I'm sure you can put on
I'll put it in the show links as well, and your Instagram, because I'm sure there's beautiful
Instagram.
photos.
Yeah, Instagram, I do lots of cheese pictures and cheese stories about enjoying cheese as well and sharing my passion.
Right. Well, good luck in Ireland. It's going to be a fabulous trip, I bet. And
Looking forward to a week off, yes. Mhm.
so thank you so much, Michael, and check out Michael's website. We'll be sure to get the link shared too for the September cheese pairing. That sounds
Thank you.
fabulous.
I'll send it with you and yeah, send you an invite for that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. And I'll have my husband come along too because he's the chef in the house, and
All right.
he'll get a kick out of knowing more about purchasing cheeses and what to look
Great.
for. Yeah.
I look forward to that. So I've got some cheese for supper now. I've also got a nice wine. So I'm
Oh,
going to have a look
nice.
now. And
Cheers. And I've got my morning coffee. So
yeah, it's now 6:30 in the evening, 6:43 now in the evening. So coming up to dinner time.
yeah. Thank you so much, Michael.
Well,
I look
thanks
forward
for
to
having me,
meeting you
April.
in the future. I'll have to make a trip to Amsterdam now again.
Welcome anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.